And I'm coming around. Okay, everybody, welcome to the Tree Peakers podcast. This is a very special edition. This is episode 7. I'm calling it lucky number 7 because I've got Brenda Harris from here in New Mexico who has agreed to sit and chat with me today. So I can't tell you how excited. I'm a little nervous, but I have watched Brenda on the Netflix Unsolved Mysteries episode, Paranormal Rangers. I've seen her on Ghost Adventures. I've listened to her on Sasquatch Chronicles. Mm-hmm. Is that right? And I just seen that Small Town Monsters was in town speaking with her, and I watch all of their stuff too. So super excited and very grateful and privileged to have you with me today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So first I'll tell you just a little bit about myself. My name is Eddie. And this is the first time we've ever met. So we haven't been friends for years. You know, I didn't talk to you and tell you to tell me some stories here that are going to be made up. These are all true stories that Brenda has experienced out on her property and in the area of New Mexico that is headed towards Shiprock and about, what would you say, 20 miles from where we're at here in Farmington?
No, probably about 11 miles.
11 miles. So we're not that far out of town then.
Yeah, I'm in Upper Fruitland.
Upper Fruitland, okay. And time again, while I'm bartending and while I'm serving tables where I work, I can't tell you, the reason that I began this podcast is the more and more I would share my experience from the Bisti Badlands that I spoke with you about briefly here just a second ago, I would hear more and more stories from the Upper Fruitland area, are they called the Chickataw Mountains? Or going towards the Chusca Mountains?
No, Chusca Mountains.
Chusca, thank you. Sorry for mispronouncing that. I've heard a lot of stories out of there. I've heard stories out of Navajo Dam. I've heard stories, Dulce, Pagosa area. Lots and lots of amazing stories that I never knew were attributed to our area. I always thought it was big in the Pacific Northwest and all throughout the country, but I didn't realize how prevalent it was here. Mm-hmm. And I think you know all too well all about it.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of stories and a lot of encounters that people have had.
Right.
In different areas that you just mentioned. So, and every encounter is always different.
Right.
You know, with different, I guess, what creatures that's out there, you know.
Yeah, well, you say that. Now, the more and more I've got into this subject and kind of done the deep dive, gone down the rabbit hole on it, I guarantee you know a lot more about this than I have. I've only been into it for about 5 years. And when I started to get into it, there's a podcast that I watch on YouTube called The Facts by How to Hunt. Are you familiar with Steve? He's pretty good. He's a world-renowned hunting guide out of British Columbia, Canada. And I would watch his hunting videos, right? He would always, because he's a hunting guide, right? World-renowned. He's won awards. He never brags about things like that, but he is, if you search him, he's the real deal on getting out there on foot, bow hunting, big elk, grizzly bear, moose, you name it, right? In the Canadian wilderness of North America. And he happened to share an encounter that he had while bow hunting in BC, Canada, 30 years ago or so, maybe longer. And then he shared his grandfather's experience. And once he did that, people started emailing him their encounters. And at first he was like, you know, please don't send me your Bigfoot stories. I'm not going to share them. But in the months that followed, the sheer volume of people that were wanting to share their stories was overwhelming to him. So now his site, he's got his hunting site, but he has his one dedicated to just people's emails. And it was through there where I heard similarities of what happened to me in the Bisti Badlands. You know, and that's where my wife, and I've expressed this on this podcast when I shared my own story on episode 5, I think it was, or 4, and I said it was almost like an aha moment when those situations kept coming up in those emails from all different parts of North America. Right. And the growling, the twig breaking, the throwing rocks, that didn't happen to me, but the grunting, all that kind of stuff. And the more you learn, the more fascinating it really is. Like, I see your little program, or what you have, Shadow Seekers, is that what it's called? Now, I saw a picture that you posted recently of a footprint. Is that right? Was that on your property?
Yes.
So this, oh, look at my little thing just tilted over. Let me bring this up just like this. There we go. Is that on your property now, does this happen frequently?
It does. Let's see, that footprint was probably about maybe 50 yards from the back of our house.
50 yards?
Yeah, about 50 yards from.
That's pretty close.
Yeah, that's really close.
Do you have, to your knowledge, to the best of your knowledge, do you have like a family of them that live out there? Is there multiple? Is it just one, you think?
There's probably a family that's living out there.
And are you in the same spot where they came to visit you on Netflix?
Yes.
And Ghost Adventures?
Mm-hmm.
The same area?
Yeah.
You want to know what's funny about that? When I watched the Ghost Adventures episode, when I heard that they were here, and then in the year that followed, the episode comes out sometime, and when I watched it, I said to myself, when they showed what they thought was a ghost that disappear, like shows up and then disappears out by where your pool was or something,
Mm-hmm.
I told my wife when we seen that, I go, that looked like a Bigfoot.
It did.
Right?
To me it does, yeah.
Did you mention that to them on there?
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't talk about that.
Mm-mm.
No, was it your husband who was on the couch with you talking? Or
That was
family member?
That was my son.
Oh, your son.
My son.
He even had a New Mexico Bigfoot shirt on.
Yeah.
See, we recognized that right off the bat. And I had asked my wife, I go, I wonder if they brought up Bigfoot and stuff, but Ghost Adventures, that's just not their thing, right?
Yeah, they're more into the ghost stuff.
Paranormal stuff?
The paranormal stuff is what they're into. My son and I, we're on the show with Finding Bigfoot as well.
Oh, you did
So,
Finding Bigfoot as well? I'm going to have to look that episode up. I didn't know that.
I was on the first episode, the first time that they came here.
Yeah.
And then they came back again and we did another, I don't know what they called it. But the second one was my son when he had an encounter, so he shared his encounter on the second episode.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I tell you, when I saw that, because if they only, well, I love Ghost Adventures. I love Zach, all those guys on that show. But when I seen, because the more you get into the Bigfoot subject, the more paranormal it gets.
It does.
If you really dive in,
Right.
to me, I refer to them as prehistoric human being. I don't call them an animal. I think they're way too cunning, way too smart to just be an animal. If they were an animal, I like the way Steve puts it on the Facts by How to Hunt show. He says, because he's a world-renowned hunter, like I told you, big game hunter. And he goes, if they were just an animal, hunters around the world would have their teeth on a necklace. And he talks about the First Nations people of North America, how cunning and stealth of hunters they were. They would take down grizzly bears, they'd take down big game. And he said, especially them, who have an immense respect for the Bigfoot, for, I don't know if you would call them tribes, I don't know if you would call them, I don't know what to call them, but I don't refer to them as animals. I think they're more than that. They have to be.
Yeah.
There's a spiritual aspect to them that is truly remarkable.
Oh, yeah.
Have you dealt with any things like that where you see like the footprints go for a while and then they just stop? Mm-hmm. So you've seen that?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to something like that, a lot of investigations that I've done with regarding Bigfoot, like you say, I can follow a track and then all of a sudden it stops.
Right.
So when you come into something like that, what comes to my mind is, okay, did it boil back down into the ground? Does it disappear? Did it fly off? Or where'd it go?
Right.
This is where I start looking around. What does the area look like? Okay, it should be a footprint here. So you could have like bushes here.
Yep.
Look on those little bushes. Some of them are mounded, they're round.
Right.
Now these things will drop on all fours and start walking like a gorilla.
I've heard about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So look on these little weeds. Okay. Those mounds, you'll find footprints where the reason why they fall and they start walking on them weeds is because they don't want you to follow where they're going.
You're kidding me.
So look.
They walk on top of the sagebrush?
Yeah. The sagebrush. If you notice, if you happen to be out there again, look in the center. Sometimes it's flat and you're like, whoa.
Really?
And go to the next one. Okay, there's another stripe there. There's another one. So look at those.
I never thought about that.
Look at those. Some of the sagebrush, not very many of them are really tall.
Yeah.
Most of them are like I call them like little
Ground
weeds.
level. Yeah, level, ground level. Yeah,
Those
yeah.
weed, they're
I
like
think my
round,
grandparents called them alfalfa. Is that right?
Some of them are,
Right.
they're round. First, like I'm saying, they're round, and they're not very tall.
No doubt about it. I grew up
Really
on a ranch, spent my summers in La Jada, New Mexico, where my grandparents had a ranch. It was full of stuff like that. I've even got,
So look at that, because if you see, and if you notice that the center of that is squished down, take a look at the next one close to it, all the way down. And like I said, it's because they don't want you to follow the
so that's how
footprints.
smart they are. That's where I say, if it was just your common gorilla or your monkey or something like that, they're not going to think that far, right? They don't know how to cover their tracks. They don't.
Oh, they do.
They do?
Yeah, they'll take. I had.
We're talking about Bigfoots?
Yeah, Bigfoot.
Yeah, I'm saying like the common monkey or gorilla
yeah, yeah.
wouldn't know
Oh,
how to
no.
do that.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
That's where
right.
I think there's some kind of human component to
Right.
them. There has to be.
It has to be, yeah.
You know, that's why I say prehistoric human, because they've been around.
Yeah.
I think they've been around a lot longer than we have. You know, is the size of these things truly remarkable if you actually see one? Right. I don't think people can wrap their heads around 7 to 9 feet tall. I've heard stories, Brenda. Like I had a gentleman when I was bartending tell me that because he overheard me talking about it, and he said that him and his family were driving back from Kayenta, and that one crossed the road, and there was these pillars inside the bar where I was working up by the airport, and he stood next to the pillar and told me, I mean, it had to be 10 feet tall on that ceiling, and he said it was easily that tall and only took 2 strides to cross the road. To cross I mean, you know the road coming home from Kayenta, right?
Yeah.
It would take
Yeah.
me or you, what, 12,
Probably.
14 steps to get
Something
across?
like that.
2 strides, and
Yeah.
he's across the road. Boom, boom.
Yep.
He or she, you know. I can't wrap my head around how the size. You know, what happened to me in the Bistai, they never came in close enough for us to see one. We heard them all around us. I'll never forget what I heard, but I've never seen one. I've seen the tree break in the La Plata Mountains that didn't make any sense. It was, this was a stalk on there. Like you or I or any one of us could not push that over. As hard as we tried, we couldn't do it, no matter what we tried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to have some immense strength to
Oh, definitely.
You know,
yeah,
to
I've
break-
come across one down here at the San Juan River where the trunk is probably about this big, and it literally turned it, pulled it over and twisted it.
Twisted it?
Twisted the branch. And I was like,
I mean, you know how hard it is to
wow.
break a little something that's nice and green and healthy? How hard it is to even
Yep.
break that? Yeah, some of these, so I started an Instagram page just the other day to try to help promote the page on YouTube. And so I was digging for photos and stuff. And you'll see some of the trees, like I don't know how they do it, but they'll get in there and just pull it apart, you know? And it'll be like turned inside out,
Yeah.
you know? Have you heard where they take the trees out, pull them out of the roots, and then stuff them back in upside down?
Upside down, yes.
Have you heard of that
I've
stuff?
heard of it.
Yeah.
I have not seen one here.
No, I've heard of
Around
like
here,
more
but
of that, like in the Pacific Northwest and stuff, like because I hear they're bigger out there,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Very big.
Like massive,
Bigger than what we have down here.
right?
Right.
But they're still at least 7.
Probably taller.
Taller
Out
than
there,
7 feet?
Out there in the mountains.
Wow,
A lot bigger. More muscular.
really?
What we have, the ones that I've seen here, kind of scraggy looking, skinny.
I've heard about this. Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
Not enough
Probably
big
not.
game for them to eat,
Probably.
or right? They're eating like
Could be.
rabbits and
We used to always get like skunks and deers in our area.
Yeah.
But since they've come in, we don't see those anymore.
You're
really.
kidding me? They take care of that then,
Oh yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
they got to eat. Now, are you familiar? You have to be, right? The more I talk to people, I've heard of sheep go missing.
Oh yeah.
Horses they find with their
And the head's broken. Yep.
right, their neck's broken.
Yep.
You know how hard it would to be to break a horse's neck?
Yep.
An animal in excess of 1,000 pounds? You've got to be pretty darn big,
Yep.
right? Yeah, so, when I was in the Bistai, have you heard, so you've had to hear the howling, right? I seen a video just recently of a truck driver who was pulled over. I only heard the growling, but still to this day, hearing a growl, and I'll do an impression, it's going to be horrible, but to hear something sound in the realm of, whatever that was, right? Never heard anything like it in my life, I would love to hear the howl at night. I hear, like, if you go out that way at nighttime and just pull, you know, do you have a chance of hearing? I don't know if they're howling at the moon or are they talking to each other? What is it that they're doing? Nobody really knows?
Nobody really knows, really. It'd be like, hey, you know, there's another one over here. This one's yelling its head off. It could be like, hey, I'm over here, come this way. Or this one yells, I'm over here. You know, it could be either way.
Just communicating.
Yeah.
I had somebody within the last few days who was telling me a story. Didn't get it on audio or anything yet, but that they can start fires.
Oh, I'm sure they can.
Have you heard this?
Mm-hmm.
They said that his grandfather, who had a sheep ranch, he called it something, out towards 20 miles past Shiprock, he said. Mm-hmm. And at nighttime, they would see light out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
That was amazing to me. I never heard anything like that, you know. So then again, there you go. That's not a chimpanzee or a monkey, right? That is, they don't have lighters, so they're out there. They're doing it the original way, right? They're living life the way that it was given to them.
Yeah, they watch us. I mean, like I said, they're hanging around at the rivers. They watch people. Really observe the people, what they're doing.
They're curious about us, right? Yeah. That episode of Netflix, Paranormal Rangers, was the thing knocking on your door? Or was it just hitting it? Boom, boom.
It was,
when it came up to the door and you open the door and there's that big mass standing there.
No. It wasn't banging on the door or anything. What I had heard was something walking onto the porch. You know, porches, they squeak, you know.
Right.
And then we had a screen door, like a storm door.
Yes.
And then the main door.
Yeah.
So I heard something heavy, and what really caught my attention was the dogs. They were really whimpering underneath the porch. I'm like, why are they?
Like they were scared.
Yeah, they were really scared. So I hear something walk onto the porch, and you know, kids are laughing, just having fun. You know, I told them I'll be quiet, and next thing you know, I could hear the screen door open.
That's what it was, right?
And
right.
It's like a squeaking sound. Like I said, what? And one of the first thing I seen the doorknob moving.
The doorknob was moving.
Yeah. I'm like, who's? And I thought maybe it was the kids' cousins, maybe their dad or something trying to scare us and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. So I told my brother, I said, hey, open the door. You know, he was scared. He was like,
so you could feel it? You could feel it? You had that?
Yeah, just like, you know,
right.
Why are the dogs crying, you know?
Right.
They weren't barking, they were scared, whimpering.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, something's out there.
And these are dogs that usually will bark at someone when they come by, protect the house, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear dogs have an immense fear of them.
I think we had two or three dogs at the time.
And they're all whimpering.
Oh yeah, they were crying. They're like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And so, and I thought, oh, maybe it's just my husband. You heard him left something and came back. Maybe he's trying to scare us, but it wasn't. Like I said, I told my brother at the time, I said, open the door and see this. He froze. He got really scared. Well, we all got scared.
Really?
And so
everybody could feel it in the house. They could feel that energy.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, we open the door and all I see is this big black hairy thing standing there. And I'm like, no. And my mom like, no way, that can't be, you know. All I see is this big black hairy thing standing there. And like I said, it wasn't very muscular. It was
one of the big scraggly ones?
Yeah, it was a scraggly looking one, you know. I'm going to say the height on that thing was probably about 7 foot tall.
Still got to be pretty intimidating to see.
Oh, yeah.
And to feel.
I didn't get to see the facial because it was covered in hair.
Really? That much hair?
Hair all the way down.
And you're saying hair, right? Not fur.
Hair, to me, it looked like hair.
No.
This
is what I've heard. That fur. It's not fur, it's hair, like hair. We have.
Yeah.
Right?
Like this.
Right. Once again, a human component. An animal has fur, right? So they're,
but the texture of the hair
thicker
is kind of almost like maybe a horse's mane, maybe.
Really?
Almost. But yeah, it smells horrible too.
I was just going to ask you if you've ever had the smell attributed with them. I've talked to numerous people that I've had on the podcast so far, and some that I haven't, who have shared with me that you know when they're around because of that smell. Is there any Is it truly as bad as they say it is?
Yeah, oh, it is.
Where the odor is like, unlike, I mean, I've heard it called like a rotting corpse. I've heard it called like a wet dog mixed with, you know,
rotten trash. And
right,
just
right.
Something that's kind of hard to explain. It must
Really?
be smell and
Really?
Yeah, it's bad. Another way that you can tell that it's around is if you go outside and it's just dead silence.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
No bugs,
Right.
nothing.
I think I sent you one of my podcasts, but I think I sent you episode 3, but on episode 1, when I interviewed the hotshot firefighter who was flown out 10 to 20 miles, he said, you know, out there to start digging trenches to get ready to fight these wildfires. Boise, Idaho, Gila National Forest, all across the country. That happened to be where his 2 Bigfoot encounters took place over a 17-year career. He only had 2 strange encounters that had happened like that. And he said that when the whooping started, all big burly firefighters are around a fire, the whooping starts, they think it's one of their other firefighter crew who's down the way, so they start whooping back.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they offended this big alpha male or what it was. Maybe the big male was letting the tribe know, or however you describe it, that there was, hey, we've got company or whatever.
Yeah.
He said the roar that this thing let out after about 2 to 3 minutes of them whooping and all kind of laughing and making fun.
Yeah.
He said there was 4 quadrants of them split up into 20 guys apiece. Someone got on the radio. He said it was a roar like you never heard. He goes, even the wind went silent. This roar scared Mother Nature, he said. Native American gentleman. Big guy, you know. And he said these guys, big, burly beards, firefighters, right? That they all got on the radio and said, maybe we ought to huddle up tonight. And that all 20, 40, 60, let's say 80 guys were huddled back to back that night. Because he said to me, what this roar sounded like it was saying was, how did he put it? Don't disrespect me. You're in my area. And this is literally how he put it, Brenda, that it sounded like it was saying, I can rip your fucking head off with my bare hands. Don't disrespect me. Yeah. He said it was the mix of a lion, a grizzly bear, and that it echoed through the forest. And he's out, with 20 miles, hundreds of miles from civilization. But he's out in the wilderness. There's a wildfire going on. They're getting ready to get up in the morning. So it's the last thing that he said he was expecting to hear out there. He also said that he had some of the best stories I've ever heard. He would hear baby crying and laughter, children laughter. Yeah. Have you heard about that attributed with them? Why do they do that? Why do you think they do that?
Like them imitating?
They're just imitating what they've heard.
Yeah, it's just something that they do. Why? I don't know.
Nobody knows, huh?
Nobody knows. It could be also too to draw you to go that way.
That's what he said. That it felt like was it. They were, but he was like, "There's no way." What he said was, "There's no way there should be a baby crying out here."
Right. Yeah.
Right? I even seen that on one of the episodes of Small Town Monsters while they were in Alaska. They got it on audio where they're out in that cabin. I don't know. I know they came to talk to you. Have you watched some of their stuff?
I watched mainly the werewolf. I think
that's a good one.
I haven't watched the others yet.
They got good. So the werewolf. But real quick, they just captured on audio what sounded like a woman screaming and a baby crying. Yeah. And I'm talking, these guys had to get flown in on a little Cessna plane, land on a lake, and then go out to this log cabin that is in the Alaskan wilderness. Right. So once again, you shouldn't be hearing a woman screaming bloody murder, like a woman who needs help, right, trying to draw the men in, or a baby crying, right? What are they trying to draw you out in the middle of the night for? Is there some nefarious ones that
probably just take you, and you go that way,
So that happens.
You may never come back. So when people start telling me, I'm like, no, don't go that way because it's not what you think it is. They may rip you up and you don't know, so be careful.
No doubt about it.
Right, so that is really my goal about doing all these.
Keep people safe?
Yeah.
Right, it's not, see, I've had offers from several people to tell me, I'll take you out there, let's go have an experience. We got to stay the night, this, that, and the other. But I think to myself, these Native American gentlemen who have the ranch or who have the property out there, they're familiar with them. All of a sudden I come out there, I don't know. I'm not one of them.
Right.
you know, who they're familiar with. I'm all of a sudden a new entity in their territory. I don't know if they'd like that.
Right.
You know, so to me, that kind of going to see some footprints in the daytime or something like that, but staying the night makes me a little nervous because I don't want to offend them.
Right.
And I don't want to, you know,
Right.
because you know what I'm saying? Like what you just said right there. I don't want them to feel something. I mean, God, Brenda, I've heard so many amazing stories, like hunters who feel like they're being watched, and they look through their scope, and there's an eyeball staring at them.
Mm-hmm.
How far does a scope go? 250, 300 yards away, you know?
Yeah.
But this thing is like, I mean, I don't, you know, or people that are, I got a story the other day of a gentleman from Wyoming. He was on the Wyoming-Montana reservation border, and he was running through the mountains during high school. He was in the track team,
Right.
and he noticed off to either his left or right, something was, how do you say, following his every move.
Right.
He could hear the footsteps, right? And then when he'd stop,
He'd stop.
it would stop, right? So like they're very good at messing with you, I guess, or just periodically. Maybe they're just so curious about us that they just, and they're out there. It's not like they have TV or they have like shit that we do to keep them. So you got somebody who comes into your area. I'm sure they've got a pretty big radius of an area, right? I've heard so much amazing stuff on this subject, such as like there's the day watchers, the ones that stay awake to make sure that nobody gets too close to.
Yeah, to where they're at.
Right.
Yeah. When one gets too close, okay, you get a rock thrown at you. Basically, that is kind of like a sign of like they're telling you like, hey, we're here.
When you hear when the rock gets thrown, right? Like
Yeah, we're here.
you're getting too close
Yeah.
or something, right?
Now, if you keep going in, the more you get drawn in or going into them, the rock gets bigger.
Really?
The bigger the rock, you better watch out, you know. And it's
So-
only, it could be, or it could be a big old log that gets thrown at you.
I've heard about that as well.
So,
Yeah,
when
like
it
a big
comes to-
log,
Yeah, well, yeah.
right? That you or I couldn't pick up together,
Right.
right?
Yeah, that'll
Just
get thrown at you.
boom.
So when that comes to something like that or a big boulder, you better turn around because they don't want you there. And it could be because they might have a young one, like a baby one there.
Yeah.
And
So
trying
they're
to
gonna
protect
be
that one.
they're gonna get. You're right.
You know,
They're
so
very
they don't want-
protective of their
yeah, they
families,
don't-
right?
Yeah, they don't want nobody there.
It's funny you say that because the gentleman that I was just speaking with the other day who agreed to interview with me here in the future, he said he was doing an owl survey for the Navajo Nation. So he would have to go out from dusk till dawn. And he went to this one area, it's about midnight, and he was going to have lunch. That's how he described it to me. He's ready to have lunch with his crew. And when they sat down, they could just feel something like the energy changed, right? And they started looking over their shoulders, and all of a sudden, a handful of dust and pebbles got thrown at them. And what he said to me, and I thought this was amazing, because anytime I talk to a First Nations person, Native American person, they have such an immense respect for these beings, which is it helped me understand to respect them and not to disrespect them, you know? And he said he knew exactly what that meant when the pebbles and the dust got thrown at him. And he said he told his crew, let's give this guy some space. Let's move down the way. Let's go have lunch somewhere else. It was letting him know you're too close. And to me, what you just said, it starts with like little rocks. But if you keep moving in and encroaching on their space or what they're comfortable with, that the boulder will get bigger.
Yeah.
So I just heard this the other day. I would have not been able to, you know, that's cool.
Yeah, it could be, like I said, a small rock, and then sometimes you go in, you inching your way in, it could turn to a growl, and then a bigger boulder, or bigger the rock is, then you know you need to just turn around and leave.
Well, you know what's crazy I know I was too close 21 years ago, 2002, 2003 with my friends when we went out for that hike. The mistake I made that day was being an adolescent teen who wasn't thinking. I wasn't thinking about respecting the land. I wasn't mature enough to understand. I wasn't even thinking Bigfoot, anything like that.
Yeah.
When you get to the Bista, you park, and there's, your little start, you can sign in, then you go off on your hike, right? Well, when we got back, we decided to go off the beaten path in the car. So we were way out where we should not have been. Because I've been to the Bistai Badlands on numerous occasions throughout my life, never had this experience. But what we did was drive out where we shouldn't be, right? And for years I thought to myself, before I learned anything about this, I thought I had drove over maybe an ancient burial ground, offended the spirit world, because this night was so terrifying.
Yeah.
But we had to be way too close to their area. But I honestly, like I told you before we started recording, I honestly believe they had something to do with my, I know it sounds crazy, with my, like my car should have started.
Right.
I never had an issue with it before and never after. Like, ended up selling that car, little beater car. I was 16, my dad bought it for me. We ended up selling it to a family member. They never had a problem with it, right? That car should have started when we got back from our hike. And Brenda, I kid you not, Brenda, so as we know we're stuck out there and the sun is setting, because we tried to leave about sunset, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Now we're stuck out there. So we had about 7 hours out there for the night. We finally got away, but I will tell you, we tried to start a fire. No matter what we did. I was in high school at the time. I had notebook paper for my backpack. We had lighters. We were kids, right? Teenagers. We were smoking little weeds. We had lighters. No matter what we did, we couldn't start a fire that night.
Wow.
It was like almost, it was like they had control of nature or something. You know, every time we got it going or whatever, the wind would come in and then there'd be no wind.
Right.
I know that sounds crazy, but I can't. That's the only way I know how to describe what happened that night. But they were snapping twigs, right? You need hands, you need thumbs.
Right.
Right, north, south, east, west. They were all around us. There had to be 2 or 3 of them at minimum. And then the growling was coming in and coming out, coming in and coming out. And as soon as they were, well, there's a little bit more to this. When finally we were getting ready. Oh, I left this part out, Brenda. This is what I wanted to get. Once the car turned over, cool, we're getting out of here. The back tires dig into to a ditch that wasn't there. So we're now dug in. So we spent the rest of the night using our hands, a tire iron, and a notebook, trying to dig our back tires out to try to get, and then we ended up putting the rubber mats that your feet go on in the back underneath the tires. We had to get them under there to get traction. Right? So it was an entire night's worth of, I can't even explain. Like it was, now I know though, I know it was a Bigfoot experience. It was, I know it was. From the growling to the grunting to the hearing something running on 2 feet, right? If it was a supernatural ghost experience, I don't think, you would hear the twigs breaking or you would hear, then again, I don't know, but whatever it was sounded big. And then when we got everything ready, and I kid you not, Brenda, when we got everything ready, and my girlfriend at the time is in the driver's seat, I left out that my dog Star, my German Shepherd, this will sound familiar to you, all day long, chasing rabbits, hiking, running around. When that shit started, she was shaking like a leaf on a tree like I'd never seen before and never seen thereafter. Had that dog for over 10 years. She would not get out of the car. Star was, and she was a fearless, protector, When I counted to 3, we had me, my buddy Matt, and Paul were going to push the car out, and my girlfriend at the time is in the driver's seat. When I count 1, the uptick in the twig breaking, I mean, you wouldn't believe. But when in between the seconds 2 and 3, Brenda, it sounded like a tree trunk split in half. There's no trees out there. How did they make that noise? Maybe just a big rock slamming on the ground. I don't know. There's a lot of petrified tree out there. That could have been what it was. But it was like they knew the count. They knew we were about to get free, and it was like one last scare they wanted to, We were so scared, Brenda. It worked, putting the mats and everything. So when we count 1, 2, you hear that big crack. We're all so terrified that Brooke starts driving off, and me and Paul and Matt are chasing her for a good 60 seconds to a minute and a half. She didn't even stop. So we're chasing her in the dark. That's how terrified we all were, And we left the tire iron, we left the mats, we left everything that we were using to dig out, we left and hopped in the car, and we didn't look back. We didn't want to turn around and put the brights on to look and see what it was. That's how scared we were. So
I know that feeling, because something similar happened to my sister and I back in, I think it was 2000. 10, I think, if I remember right. We went up to the Kutchbag Mountains there. And that area is called the Kutchbag. We went up to the mountains there and Michelle called me on a Sunday.
Right.
It was in October when this had happened. And we went, she goes, hey, let's go to the mountains. Let's go camp tonight. It was just her and I.
Yep.
And so we took off up there. And we didn't get out there until, what time was it? After 9, I think.
PM?
Mm-hmm.
So it's nighttime.
It was nighttime.
Right.
So we go in this area where it takes probably about maybe, an hour and 20 minutes to get to the location where we're going to camp.
Right.
And this location is like in a valley, like, so it's very dark. I mean, dark. Some nights it can brighten up, but it's really dark.
Mm-hmm. If the moon's not out?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we're driving in, so like I said, there's like two little like hills on the side of us in the valleys where we're at down below.
Yeah.
So 75 feet above us, you got a lot of trees and stuff, so you got the hills up here. So you can walk up there, but you'll have to climb up there.
Okay.
Okay, so just kind of picture that, and then
Yeah.
the same way on this side too.
Right.
So we're down here in the valley where there's a lot of trees and really dark. So we get out there and we start the fire and we get things going and I left the headlights on the Jeep.
Yeah.
And so we can, gather wood. She's gathering wood over here and I'm gathering wood on this side.
Yeah. Are you planning on camping for the night?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because let's camp, I'm like,
Yeah.
let's go see if we can get some vocalizations. I'm like, yeah, let's go.
Oh, so you were going out there to see if you could hear anything
Yeah.
and whatnot. Right.
Yeah, that too, So I was all excited, grabbed all our gear, we took off. Like I said, we got out there after 9 o'clock. We started hunting for dry wood and stuff. And I was, like I said, I'm over here, and dry leaves and the twigs, when you're walking through those, make sound.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm making a lot of ruckus
Yeah.
on this side, and
Yeah.
she's over here on the opposite side of me, but more to maybe to the east. And so I got the Jeep. It's like, okay, pretend this is the fire, or the campfire.
Mm-hmm.
So when we pulled in, you got the road's right here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when I pulled in right here. Well, I'm pretty close. And I was, that's still a little too close to the campfire. So I got back in and I moved the Jeep.
Yep.
A little bit further away from there. So I backed in, so the back end of the Jeep is facing here. And the front is facing this way, where I'm over here getting wood, and she has flashlight,
Right.
and we have our lights on.
Yeah.
She's over here more to, this way, to the, obviously, east-north,
Okay.
a little bit that way, and getting wood. Probably about maybe 15 minutes that we were doing that, all of a sudden she goes, hey, did you hear that? Of course, I'm making noise on this side. And
Right.
I said, what'd you hear? Something heavy really dropped, like boom, boom, like thud, like something heavy dropped. I'm like, no, I didn't hear that. Now, when I pulled in, there's absolutely nothing over here.
Right.
Just like half of the road you can turn this way.
Yeah.
There's nothing, okay? So we're getting twigs and all that. We finally get the fire going. And by this time it was close to 10 o'clock. And we got that fire. When I say we got that fire going, we got that fire going big
Right.
and bright so we could see around us.
Yep.
So we got it going and we pulled out our chairs and we're just sitting there talking. And by this time it's about 10:30. And she kept looking to the west of us. And she would say, Brenda, there's something's coming. I can see it's coming, going from tree to tree. Now, aspen trees, their trunks are not very big. So, some of them are kind of big, but not big enough to where if you stand against it right along with it, you can see the back or the front,
Right.
know.
Yep.
Like a small guy like you would fit. We probably wouldn't be able to see you because
Okay.
you're pretty small.
Right.
But some of the trunks are small, so definitely if you were to stand against a small one, we could see you.
Yeah.
And but she would say, something's walking. I can see it's coming this way. So I get up and I flash the light that way, and I didn't see anything.
Yep.
And so when she kept saying that, and then I would go literally walk that way.
Yep.
Where it starts getting dark, and I would take pictures. And so I go back and I would sit down and we'd talk for a while. Probably after 11 o'clock, maybe about 11:30. Again, she was like, hey, that thing's getting closer, you know. And I'm like,
really?
Okay. So I'd walk that way, take pictures, a flashlight, and see anything.
Right.
So I walk back to the fire and sitting there and we're talking. And I said, okay, so where do you want to set up the tent? Where should we set it up? And after she was watching that thing, she was like, no, that's okay. I think we'll just sit here and maybe we'll leave around 2 o'clock. She was getting scared and she didn't want to stay. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You know, I didn't want to freak her out.
Yeah.
Now, during that time, she used to work for the PD in Colorado. So she was an officer, police officer at that time. And we sitting there just talking. And she said, it's coming, Brenda. It's just right there. I can see it. By this time,
so for a good hour and a half,
it was moving up slowly to us.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we start hearing, in between that time, we start hearing branches breaking to the left and right of us.
So similar to what right.
Yeah.
That's why
so
you.
we
Yeah.
started hearing branches breaking. Like it's almost as if they were coming in, closing in.
I told that's the same thing that happened to me. You could hear him. Yeah, you could hear him getting closer.
Yeah.
Right? Now, when you said something, it sounded like it fell. Did you see what hit the ground?
Okay. Just before she started seeing this thing.
Right. You heard the big drop.
It was about 10:30, about 11:15.
Yeah.
It started getting kind of cold. So I thought I'm gonna go get my jacket out of the Jeep. So I walked around the Jeep, opened the back, and I just happened to look, and there's a huge log, big, long. I mean, long, probably a little bit longer than this table, and about this big.
That's pretty big.
And I'm looked at her and I said, "Hey sis, come look at this." I said, "This was not here."
And you know this because you drove in, right? Yeah.
I said, "That loud that you heard, that thing must have dropped that when you saw us. It must come rolling down and stop right there."
Now, when you said you guys were below that 75 foot, did it drop it from there?
No, probably about halfway.
Halfway,
and it probably was walking. Oh wait, there's something I missed here too. Was probably walking to the fire pit because when I stuck my hand before we got the fire going,
right,
I rustled up that little campfire.
Yep.
Ashes were red. Was hot. I'm like, oh, that's still hot. Now I remembered one of the guys was down there the night before.
Yeah.
And they had told me that they put out the fire so that you should be fine and you can restart it when you get there.
Right.
Because I had mentioned to them earlier Sunday. Late afternoon, hey, I'm going to be heading up.
So it was an area
way.
they had already been out there in the days previous?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the guys that I know that were doing some investigation, this is out for Bigfoot too as well, were there the night before. But they said that they took that and made sure that fire was completely out.
Yep.
Before they left. So by the time we got there, when I stuck my hand in there, I'm like, oh, that's still red.
It was still warm.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this thing must have been bringing in more firewood to get this going again and keeping them warm that night.
Really?
But we were there.
Oh yeah, because you said it was October, right? So
October.
It's starting to get to the fall where it's getting colder.
Right.
So they'll do that. They will. If there's an area that was already familiar, they watched and seen. Right? Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything like that. That's pretty neat.
So.
So you were at the point where you were saying it's pretty damn close now.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably about 12. By 12:30. No, about 12:15. She goes, "It is right there."
Right. That's where you.
It's right there. I'm telling you. So I went over there and I flashed the light.
Yeah.
That way, and what I seen standing along that aspen tree was tall. I don't know how tall, but you could see the back side of this thing standing there.
Was it turned around?
Is the back, so it was standing like parallel with the tree trunk.
Yeah,
but I could see the back. The back, the color of the hair was reddish brown, and it wasn't like matted or anything. It's like it was just nicely, like almost like it was nicely combed.
Yeah.
You know, but it wasn't matted. And I'm like, and then my sister was still by the fire, but I didn't say anything to her.
You didn't want to scare her or anything?
Yeah.
Right.
Because, you know, I didn't know how she would react.
Right.
So, all of a sudden, just a nice little breeze comes through, and you get to smell. I'm like, oh.
So
That
here,
was the
here,
this is
here
the-
again is that
yeah.
smell you're talking about, right?
The mistake that I made was telling my sister, hey, come over here. I said, can you smell that? As soon as she got a whiff of that, oh, she just went nuts. She got so scared. Never seen her scared before. Never. Not like that night.
She freaked out.
Oh yeah. She ran to the fire and started throwing stuff. Throwing it back into the fire. And I said, no. I said, calm down.
Right.
I said, don't, because if you keep doing that, the fast they see you throwing stuff in, the faster they're going to come in.
Right.
I said, so calm down. I had to calm her down.
Yeah.
Hey, calm down. It's okay. I'll get us out of here.
Yeah.
Just chill. And so we got things back in. I said, just calmly. Just act like nothing, you know, nothing's going on.
Right. It would embolden them, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They
Right.
were coming in.
I've heard that.
And then I told her, just calm down. I said, I'll get us out. And so in my mind, I'm like, okay, got everything going, you know, back into the ride. But the fire was huge. I mean, we made a big fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, okay, I want this to go down on its own. Let's see how close they'll come in.
Yeah.
That was my thinking. Oh no, she was already on her hands and knees and throwing dirt on the fire.
Trying to get it to go out.
Oh yeah. And she got it.
So you guys could leave?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it was safe enough to where we could leave.
Right.
You know?
Because you don't want to leave the fire
Right.
burning. Right.
Okay, now, so remember when I told you that the road is right here,
Mm-hmm.
campfire's right here, so actually the road's like this, so I had to go up a little hump, get
Yeah.
on the road and head out,
Yep.
take a right. Now, on this road, there's no trunk, there's no boulders, it's flat road.
Yeah.
So I turn, I get on the road and start stepping on the gas. All of a sudden, I feel this tug underneath the Jeep.
You're kidding me.
Something just held that Jeep down, would not let us go. She broke and she was like, cut it out, you know. I said, look, I'm not doing this. I said, can you crawl to the back and see what's holding the Jeep down? She wouldn't do it. She was so scared.
Wow.
And I said, hold on. I said, I'm going to put it in reverse
Yeah.
and I see if we'll bump it. Bump something, whatever it is. So I did that, nothing, didn't feel anything. I said, hold on. Shoved it into drive and just stepped on the gas.
Right.
Went just a little ways and again. Oh, she was really scared. I mean, she was freaking out, and I'm like, this is the second time that it did it. Okay. And she thought I was just messing around. I'm like, no. I said, look at my feet and look at, I got it all the way down on the gas. I had it all the way forward.
And something's preventing you from going.
Mm-hmm.
It's holding.
It's holding the Jeep. And so again, I hurried, reversed it, nothing. Took off again, third time. I got little further.
Right.
It just held on to the Jeep again. She's like, I told her, you better get your gun ready. So when we go camping and stuff like that to go listen, vocalizations and stuff, we always carry something with us.
Right.
And so I told her she better get it ready just in case.
Have a weapon?
Yeah.
Right.
I said, just get it ready just in case we need it. So, like I said, it wouldn't let go, and I had the gas all the way down, and it wouldn't let go. Finally, I backed up, and I told her, I said, hang on, this is the fourth time now, and I stepped on the gas all the way, all the way down. And this time it took off, but it held it again. And I didn't let off the gas. And we just sat there for a few minutes, maybe less than a minute, and it finally let go and we took off.
Yeah.
we hightailed out of this area.
So something that big just fucking toying with you.
Right. And when we got out, finally out to the opening, it takes probably about what, 20 minutes to get to the main highway. Now, as we're going out, driving out of there, she tells me, sis, there's one standing. I mean, there's one running beside you. Yes, I know. I said, there's one beside you too.
You're kidding
So
me.
we had one behind. There was 3 of them. So we had one on each side and one behind.
They can keep up with the vehicle?
Oh yeah. I was probably going about 45 miles an hour down the road, close to 50 on that road.
That's cool. That's incredible. I've never,
Yeah.
and all the things that I've seen you on, I've never heard this story. I want to thank you for sharing that with me because
You're welcome.
that's
That
incredible.
was pretty scary that night.
I bet, especially you finally get out of there and
Yeah, we get to the main highway and then they were gone. We finally got home must have been about 3:30, close to 4 when we finally got back.
So to me, it seems as if a lot of these experiences that you've had over however many years, they're all a little different.
Oh yeah.
There, so maybe there's some similarities here and there, but you're gonna get a different kind of experience every time you're in a different area. You're in a,
Yeah, this area that we went to, I've always had experience out there. Even I had one that picked up a boulder and slammed it against another boulder. I was with my sister, my older sister, and my 2 nephews. That was pretty scary.
When you say that, that makes me think of, that's how they could have made that sound when I said that it sounded like a tree trunk split. They could have had, the Vista, you're familiar with it? All the petrified trees that are out there.
Yeah.
They could have just had a monster boulder and just slammed it down on what would be like, the remnants. I never thought about that. That could have been what made that crack.
Yep.
I can't mimic the sound, the like whatever, like just loud, like louder than the twigs breaking we heard the whole time. Like that, it makes perfect sense. I can see it with my mind that had to be what it was because there's no trees out there to split in half.
Right.
It was like, now that I think about it, it's like rock on rock, crash,
It was loud.
I've heard that. That was the last thing we heard before thank God they didn't hold on to our car, and it makes me think, were they running, chasing us out of there too? We didn't know, and
they didn't want us there. They ran us out. Pretty much ran us out of there. But I've always gone back.
Right.
I didn't let that scare me off.
That's what Steve from the Facts by How to Hunt show on YouTube says. Don't let them take the wilderness away from you.
Yeah.
Don't let, because a lot of emails will say, I've never hunted again, I never did, because people get truly terrified of some of these experiences they have.
Yeah, don't show them your fear. And that's the hardest part. That
Right.
was the hard thing for my sister. Don't show your fear because you're actually making them stronger. So spiritually, they're evil. You show the fear, they're feeding off your fear. You're actually making them stronger, so be careful.
Wow. Okay.
Be careful.
I'll remember that with camping and any of that if anything ever happens or whatnot. It's been almost an hour, Brenda. I'm sure you're getting hungry.
I'm fine.
Are you sure?
Yeah, we can talk a little more. if you
Okay,
want.
good. So, in Fruitland and, going towards Shiprock and then out towards the mountains out there, I heard a story recently, maybe you've heard something similar. A gentleman shared a story with me saying that his grandfather, that they were taking his sheep. So he got him and some of the uncles and the brothers together and they went out looking for him. And they followed the tracks or whatever, and they actually shot one, took it down, right? And that they took pictures of it. They were kind of sending it amongst the family members and whatnot. And within 2 hours of that happening, government agents showed up, collected the body, collected all the cell phones, and erased all record of it ever happening. How would they even know? I guess, if it is true that they do monitor all cell phone activity and all that, But yeah, he said that government agents showed up, collected the body, took all the cell phones, and told them not to speak about it.
Yep, I heard that a lot.
So that's happened more than once?
Oh yeah, it's happened.
So they can be taken down then?
Yeah,
Not easy to do, but it can happen.
it can happen. We've had one over here in the area where I live. When was it? Back in 2000? Might have been between 2009 and...
That sounds right around the time this guy told me. He said between 2010 and 11, he told me.
Yeah, something like that.
Out that way.
Yeah, another one over here, close to where I live.
Really?
It's probably about less than half a mile from where I live. The lady went to go walking. She does her morning walk.
Yeah.
And, well, let me back that up. I guess they had a wildfire. And that was pretty bad right down where we live.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally got it out. Well, the next day, the hotshots went back down there to make sure there was no hot spots in areas for the fire to keep back
The
down.
hotshot firefighters.
So the lady that happens to live in that area, closer to that area,
Yeah.
she does her morning walk down at the river every morning. And she noticed a lot of, what did she say? I think it was white or black van. No, maybe it was a white van and a school bus. Maybe it was a school bus, but the white van had, the windows were dark. I mean, you can't even see in the van, the windows, you know.
Okay.
So she was like, oh, no, there's cops down there too. What's going on? So she's walking down there and they stopped her. Like, where are you going? What are you doing? Oh, I'm doing my morning walk. I always walk down here. Oh, not today. The river's closed today.
Really?
So she had to go back home. And so she was watching probably, maybe 15, 20, maybe 20, almost 30 minutes later, a helicopter comes flying in. She said, you know, that helicopter had those side, like, baskets.
For a body?
Yeah. And whatever they found down there, she goes, I know it was probably dead Bigfoot down there, because when that helicopter was flying off, you could see they covered like a body. It was huge.
Really?
And it was it laid in that basket. They covered it and flew off. They were hauling that body out of there.
Do you think they do that to go and do tests on them and stuff?
Oh, I wouldn't doubt it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've heard, we'll go into the, I don't even know if you call it paranormal or if it's just how they've evolved over so many thousands of years, however you want to describe it, eons, I don't exactly know, but I've heard stories where, yes, they collect the bodies, they want to figure out cellularly on the inside for their DNA and everything, how they're able to do the cloaking or whatever it is, where they're there 1 minute, gone the next. Have you ever come across stories of, you've seen the movie Predator?
Oh yeah.
How that it looks like aluminum foil, or or like the heat waves from the sun in the hot summer months. Yeah. Well, someone will see something in a tree move, and then you could see the silhouette of the body, but there's nothing there, but there is something there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I had one of my teammates. His name is Dave. He experienced one like that in Paris, Texas. He looked up and she was like, oh my God, it's right there.
Right.
It's just like that movie Predator, where that thing you could see something moving up there.
Me, honestly, in my opinion, that's where they got the story for that movie. They know about these things, right? And what is the movie Predator, right? It is about something from outer space that shows up and is a hunter. It's a master of the wilderness, right? I mean, if they had knowledge of this, right? And so they just tweaked it a little bit and made it seem like, but how many UFO stories are attributed with their sightings, or the orbs, the light, balls of light, things like that, right? I mean, more and more when you get, it's not with every story, but it's there. Even in the Netflix documentary, which you're featured in, right? The Paranormal Rangers, the Navajo Rangers on the Navajo reservation, stories of orbs and balls of light following cars and being over the mountain. There's even that story on that particular documentary, which you're featured in, where I'm not sure what part of Arizona they're in, but it's on the Navajo reservation, and that thing was like molting over the mountaintop. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
A lot of times, when there's footprints and there's a Bigfoot sighting, there's balls of light in the sky, and so to bring that back to with that Predator thing, if they're if the government has higher knowledge that they're not going to tell us.
That's right.
You know, they're going to keep that from us. But that's very simple. They could get a story like that and tweak it a little bit, and right, because you know, anybody such as you and I, we're kooks for being into this subject, right? We're, you know,
but it's going to get labeled.
100%. But you know, it's never really bothered me to be ridiculed on this subject or made fun of, because the people that I talk to, such as yourself, when you're sitting here talking to me, you know, you're sitting here looking at me with a straight face. You're not, you know, somebody who's lying, you know, their body language, you know, they're nervous and all this, they're making shit up, you know. You learn about that through police interrogations and all that. Everyone that I talk to on this subject looks me directly in the eye, and sometimes they tell me the most terrifying story that they've ever encountered. Sometimes it's a story that gave them a thrill unlike they had ever experienced in their lifetime. You know, so time and time again, I hear it is the most jaw-dropping stories that are not out of this world, but yet out of the realm of ordinary for a daily experience. But more and more you go into the wilderness, it's not going to happen every time, but there are these experiences that people go through, and it stays with them for a lifetime. What happened to me in the Bistye Badlands, Brenda? It's burned into my memory, right? And when I started getting into this subject, I tell you, and I heard those similarities, instantaneously it was like, oh my God, you know, it brought me right back to that moment. And you don't forget these encounters. You don't forget, though I didn't see it, I heard it, I felt it. I mean, everything that happened that night I could describe in detail for the rest of my life. I'll never forget it. You know, it's only one thing, you know, it's only one night out of my entire 36 years on the planet, you know.
Yeah, it's just like you remember like it was yesterday.
100%.
You know?
Everybody tells me that. Everybody tells me, you know, that what happened to them, you'll never forget it, you know. So, pretty incredible. I'd love to do this again with you someday.
Sure.
I don't, you know, want to invite myself to where you are, but if you get more comfortable with me as time goes on, and you have footprints or something, and I don't have to get it on camera or video, but just for the experience, I'd love to like see something like that.
Sure.
But
let me show you a couple if you have time still.
Well, 100%. Yeah.
Let me see if I can think of one here.
And if you do, like, let's say a couple of these pictures you have, if you send them like in the DM or a text message to me, I can even put them at the end of this podcast that we did here today.
Sure. I can do that.
Yeah, the one that I seen on the Shadow Seekers page, or maybe it was your own page, on when you accepted my friend request a couple months ago. I was just amazed. It was like, you know, you just walked outside and that was on your property or something, you know?
Yeah.
And that was a big footprint, you know? And that's another thing. It's like, you know, people don't realize, like, we're in the winter months, right? So who in their right mind is going to take their shoe off and their sock off, let alone have that big of a print? But
This is behind our home too, in one of the back fields there.
Look at how deep that impression goes in the ground. Wow. That's incredible. Is that your foot next to it?
That's my sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
Let's see. Now this is pretty interesting. We did a, what do you call it? A Bigfoot.
Like a seminar or something?
Oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Out there in Dulce.
Oh yeah.
About before this COVID hit.
Yeah.
We did a camp out there, an expedition. There you go. And the gentleman that owns this property, he goes, I'm going to take you guys to this rock. It looks like a Sasquatch head. And got to look in and took us. I'm like, holy cow, it sure does. Doesn't that look like a Bigfoot head?
Oh my God. 100%. Yeah, the conical shaped head and everything.
That's pretty cool.
Now, do you think that's a natural formation, or do you think there was maybe something like carved into that? What are your thoughts?
I think it's just natural.
Well, that's pretty incredible if that's natural, because that's pretty awesome. I've never seen anything like that. That's pretty neat.
That was pretty cool. I was like, oh wow.
When would you say one of the last experience you had on your property? Recent, or has it been a while?
When was it? It runs through our property, and that was probably back in January.
A couple months? That's still not that far away.
Yeah.
And are you along the San Juan River? Are you close?
I'm about maybe less than a quarter of a mile from the San Juan River.
Oh, then you're right there.
Yeah.
Man, I can't tell you like how many stories. I mean, that's Netflix came to our town specifically to fly over the San Juan River and show Shiprock and show this area. They could have picked any. That's incredible. They could have picked any place in North America, right, to go to do a documentary on Bigfoot, but they chose the Four Corners.
Yeah.
They chose our area. To me, that's that. Oh my God, look at that! Wow, Brenda, thanks for showing me those. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty
Look at the stride on that.
Yep. I think it was like 4 feet apart, I think it was.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And, okay, now this one. I don't know if you watched that video, Rated Garden.
I don't think so.
This one was walking along the river in the Hogback area, along the mesa there, along that hill there.
Wow.
To the south of the river.
That's awesome.
So what it was doing...
So it's off in the distance coming down the hill?
Yeah. It was heading...
Looks like reddish brown, huh?
Yeah. It was heading back to the east.
That's awesome, Brenda.
Yeah. It
Holy
was
moly.
actually carrying something white. What she was carrying a sheep.
You're kidding me.
Earlier that morning, I got a call from the lady that lives in this area. She goes, "Hey, our neighbors just shot at something, and it."
For raiding the sheep
Yeah, she
corral?
wasn't too sure.
Yeah.
And when they got to looking, they're like, "Oh my God, this thing is carrying a sheep." That's why the neighbors were shooting at it. And so I wasn't here at the time. I was actually on my way to Albuquerque. So I called one of my colleagues, "Hey, get down there and see if you can get a video of this thing walking along that mesa there." So
out in broad daylight like that.
Yeah, it was about 9 o'clock when she contacted me, and the time Dave got out there was probably about 10, must have been about 10:30 maybe.
Yeah.
And they got it on film, and it was walking. But before he got there, he said, "It's carrying something." Like, "Oh, it's carrying a sheep." That's why the neighbor was shooting at it.
Yeah.
So this thing was carrying the sheep, was heading back to the east. It went down into the valley, and then it came back out. And that's what Dave recorded, is it coming back out and walking back to the east again. But
no sheep?
No sheep in the head. It took, like, dropped it off down where there's possibly some other ones sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
And so...
feeding the family.
Yeah. So as it was walking, you notice in the video, this thing stops, and it's like it's rubbing its leg or something. I'm like, oh, I bet.
You got hit.
It got hit. When that guy shot it, whoever shot it, it must have hit the leg, because you would notice.
Well, he looks like he's slumped over right there.
Yeah, if you watch the video, it walks so far, it stops, and it does like it's rubbing its leg.
Well, that's what I was saying. It looks like it was slouched over right there in that picture. That picture's incredible.
Yeah.
So that's pretty amazing. Well, yeah, on the Netflix documentary, even they talked about finding sheep with its wool pulled completely off. I mean, think about the strength you have to do that. I couldn't do that a million times if I tried, right?
Yeah.
Grab a sheep's wool and pull it off like it's a sheet of paper from a notebook, you know? Like, you got to have some serious strength on you to do something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
I've come across a lot of that.
Really?
Where, we'll have to do this one on the next.
Sure.
This one I'll go into detail on what happened.
Okay, I look forward to that.
So we've had a lot of sheep killing, had horses, we had a lot of dogs, cats.
My wife and
missing and all.
My wife and son, dogs, cats, all that.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and son are over there. They're popping in to say hi. So
This is 18 inches long, a little over 18 inches long, and about 4 inches wide.
and it's deep.
25 yards from our house in the backyard.
You're kidding me. That close. Like, look how deep that impression is. I mean, that is like, it goes into the ground like that.
This
That's
was
amazing.
2009.
So this has been happening a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm
A
sure
lot
it goes
longer.
back previous to that, right?
Yep.
Wow, Brenda, that's just amazing. It really is.
Okay, so the other footprints are here. It's kind of shaded. When we measured from here to here was like 4 feet apart.
In stride. So if you're
the
familiar
right
with stuff
foot's
like that,
here, and this is the left foot.
Oh, like apart.
Apart, yeah.
Not like going in. Like that's just
It's
like.
apart.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So they do say, like, when they say, like, when you see a big one and the broad shoulders are 5 feet across, like, that's a big fella, right?
And the one that I seen behind our yard in the back, which is about this footprint here, when we flashed the light back there, it was tall. It must have been about, I'm going to say about 8, maybe even close to 9 foot tall. It was big, and when I flashed the light, the shoulder was just massive.
Well, that's how you
Big,
described
you know.
your story. You told me that was similar to mine, where you said they had the aspen tree. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm.
And that it was so big that it was sticking out behind it, right? You said, if it was me standing there, I could probably hide behind it.
Yeah, you could
But
hide.
this thing,
It was so big you could see the back of it. You couldn't see the front.
that's not the
because-
first time that I've
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
heard stuff like that, where they'll try to. My
They're trying to-
podcast is called The Tree Peekers,
Yeah.
right? Because I once was told a story by my hotshot firefighter where this thing kept peeking behind a tree. Brenda, but then when he gets there, I'll send it to you. Maybe it's the one I sent, episode 3 out of
check it out.
Boise, Idaho,
Yeah.
where he describes this thing going like this, but when he walks over to see what's there, there's nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
But his spotter, Brenda, for the firefighters, right? His spotter with the binoculars is the one that got on the radio and goes, "There's something following you." As he's looking through the binoculars, watching this whole thing, it's right in front of you, but as he gets up to it, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And he's right there. He said the smell was unlike anything he ever smelled in his life.
Oh, wow.
And when he goes, as he started walking away, finally got tired of dealing with this.
Yeah.
But the guy said, "It's following you again," his spotter with the binoculars. Like, he goes, "What is that, a goddamn grizzly bear?" Right? Like, because they're not thinking Bigfoot, right?
Right.
But he tells him that the sun is starting to say, he's been dealing with this for an hour and a half. He thought it was one of his crew who was dicking around trying to play a joke on him.
Yeah.
But when he got down on the ground with his flashlight and looked at the ground, all around him were 20-inch footprints. And he said that's when his fight or flight response told him to curl up into a ball. This is a big guy. Told him to curl up into a ball and get ready to be attacked, is what he felt like.
Wow.
Now, nothing happened, but he said that he dealt with that for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours of this, because he thought that he was one of the leaders of the squad of the hotshot firefighters, that if he didn't get his guy back in order and get to work, he was going to be responsible. That's why he dealt with this for so long.
Yeah.
And when he got the call on the radio that, "Hey, Charlie's here.
Right.
Charlie's here," that's what happened. That's when he got down on the ground and looked at the footprints, and it was all around him. Like the thing was walking, but he couldn't see it. And he was right there.
Wow.
You know? Now, I got my wife and kid who just showed up, so they're probably waiting on me. But
Okay.
I can't thank you enough for doing this with me today. And if we could get together again sometime and do it, it could be either at another setting, or we could go to a park and talk. Whatever you want to do, I look forward to it. And I am immensely grateful for you speaking with me today.
You're welcome. Thank
So
you.
thank you very much, Brenda. I'm going to stop this now. And this has been Tree Peekers Podcast with Eddie and Brenda Harris. And thank you all for watching. Thanks for listening. This was lucky number 7. Thank you, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you.